hey, it's Wes, and we've talked about the Godox V1 before, but that was a long time ago. That was almost a year ago. Now we're going long term, because I have used this at 18 weddings now, over a period of almost a year. I thought it was pretty good then. Has it held up? This isn't just a little hands-on, this is the real deal. Long-term review. As usual, we're going to start out with our categories and see what we can get out of this. And number one is the build quality. So last time I had some doubts about the plasticky construction, because that's the way all of Godox's products are. They're a little bit plasticky. But honestly, this is more rigid than a lot of Godox products. It's not exactly metal or anything, but it has some pretty solid construction. I had my doubts about this new and improved plastic hot shoe, but after all this usage, I haven't had any issues with it. So I'm gonna have to take my old rating of an 8 out of 10 and bump that up to 9. My only complaint is that this quick lock is just a little bit wobbly. But overall, this thing's solid. It hasn't broken on me, and I don't take that good care of it. I don't even use the shoe protector on the bottom like most people do. Probably should, but who's got time for that? Next up is feature set, and obviously this is where this flash has always taken the cake. Now I'm going to keep referring back to my original video. If you haven't watched that yet, go ahead and watch that. I go into more detail in the little nitty-gritty of this, but today we want to find out how well this is held up hands-on real-world usage. So real-world, the most interesting features of this are A, its ability to integrate with the whole Godox ecosystem. I talk about that all the time. Tons of stuff it can communicate with. B, not only that, as a wireless flash, this thing has a trick up its sleeve that almost nothing else does. It has the wireless channel scanner, which to me is crazy. The 8300 doesn't have that. The 8200 Pro doesn't have that. In this, I can go in and scan wireless channels to find congestion and find the best channel I should be on. For a little pocket strobe, I find this kind of ridiculous that it has this feature, but it is a great solid feature to have. I've got it on my 8600 Pro, but getting that out and scanning channels is a whole other ordeal than popping this out and scanning channels. Makes my life way easier. In case you're wondering, channels 1, 2, and 12 are good to go in here. Not a lot of interference. Obvious big features of this are the rechargeable lithium-ion battery, which will last you all day easy, and the no-brainer, but somehow they're the only ones that have it, the backwards flipping neck. So you don't have to turn the flash around and go back to do a bounce on this flash. Every flash should have this soon. And then obviously the magnetic adapters that go on the top. What can you do with those? For me, real world, what I use the most are the CTO gels. Not gels, they're hard plastic. You can put that in a filter ring. If I want to use, say, an umbrella to spread the light out, I can use this. In my last video, I featured a shoot with Monica in the river. That's what I used to break this into a 7-foot parabolic umbrella for some super soft light. Barn doors snap on real easy. And if you really want to control your light, we also have the honeycomb grid. And so for shots where you really want to focus it right down, you've got that. All of a sudden you have nearly a spotlight on your subjects. And again, these are super convenient, pop on, pop off. These are, however, sold separately. So those are the key features. There are lots of other features, but those are the key ones that differentiate this flash. You still don't see a lot more features than anything else. The only other flash features that I can think of that other flashes have would be Canon has a flash that does the automatic twisting when you're bouncing, but that's kind of a gimmick. It's not very fast. So for the feature set, you can read the spec list on Adorama or B&H. It's a 10 out of 10. Usability. This is a new category, and it's one that I felt was kind of necessary. Because in theory, both this and the V860 Mark II have some of the same features, a lot of the same features. One being that this can act as an on-camera flash while controlling multiple other wireless channels of flashes. But on the V8-60 Mark II, the interface is super cumbersome. However, when you operate this guy as a controller, the interface is super clean and easy. You have quick links to each group in the bottom and to your own power. It is so easy to set up. It's pretty much as easy as just using wireless trigger. If your wireless trigger breaks, slap this on your camera. You don't even need to have it flashing to control everything else. That is enormously usable. Backwards tilting head, also usable. Easy magnetic filters, super usable. The only thing that I see is a loss for usability. These soft buttons at the bottom, and a lot of the screens, they don't do anything at all. And this has a lot of functions and features. I know they're trying not to be confusing, but this is a great screen. They can show a lot of stuff on it. There's no reason to not be making more use of these soft buttons. So overall though, usability, it's a 9 out of 10. This thing is super easy to use and super functional, unlike past flashes, which could be a bit cumbersome. Light quality. Again, this is just a strobe. Doesn't have perfect color accuracy. Doesn't have perfect consistency. What it does have is a decent amount of output and a solid recycle time. Now, I want to make a good point here about guide numbers. There's a bit of controversy over this because people look at the guide number of this and see that it's only 92 feet. But that's because this round head makes some sacrifices. It only zooms to 105 millimeters, whereas other flashes, like the V8-60 Mark II and most speedlights, will go to 200 millimeters. And a guide number is so arbitrary. It's measuring the amount of light it can throw a certain distance. It's not the actual amount of light coming out of this, it's how much it can focus it down. So a lot of the time a guide number is actually more a rating of how good the Fresnel head on this thing is. Say a Canon 600EX will have a guide number of 197, but it's zooming it more, whereas an 8200, which has more than twice as much power as this, almost 3, it has a fixed 35mm Fresnel head, so it has a guide number of 170, less than twice as much as this. So guide numbers don't follow those around too much. This has as much power as most on-camera strobes. One last thing in light quality, it's not something I talk about a lot, may or may not have even mentioned it in my last review. It is the lamp. Some might call it a modeling light. I would not. Basically, it's a tiny little LED right at the bottom of the flash head. It doesn't really illuminate the whole flash. You can see it glowing, but that's just a peripheral glow. And it fires out this super, super warm light. It doesn't really fire it in exactly the same direction of the flash head, so it doesn't tell you exactly where the light's going to be going for the flash itself. It's not even remotely the same kind of light. It's kind of bright, especially in a dark situation. So all this is really going to do is light up the room a little bit. It is not a modeling lamp, so to speak, because it doesn't give you an accurate image preview. But if you're having trouble getting focus or something while you're using this light, yes, this will create some light for you. But personally, I almost never use it. I used it, however, when I was taking these news shots so I could have some fresh content for this video. I kept the modeling light on so that I could see my eye in the preview while looking at the screen above the camera, and no modifier firing this straight into my face at 1/2 power so that I could get a clear, clean ISO 100 image at f11. So that is a lot of power, and at 1/2 power, I've got to tell you, you are not very limited by your recycle time. This thing fires super fast at 1/2 power. So that's a perfectly convenient situation to be using this in. But other than that, I'm not a big fan of that modeling light. So overall, the light quality in this, especially since you can use those adapters to do what you want with it, it's a solid 7 out of 10. It's no studio strobe, but it's not bad either. Moving on to value. This is something that I thought the rating would change for. Well, why is that? I assumed that this would eventually replace the V860 Mark II in the Godox lineup. Its price would come down, the V860 maybe would get phased out. But over time, the price on this didn't change. There have been sales, but there have been sales on the V860 Mark II as well. So you have most of the same features, same power, you're missing a bounce card. You do get an extra light, you get the round head. You don't get a faster recycle time. And this is still 45% more than the V860 Mark II. And I was expecting that to come down. And it didn't happen. This is still rocking a pretty high price point. One of the main advantages of this over the V860 is entirely artificial. It's a software advantage. The user interface on this is easier to use, but they have more or less the same screens. So there's no reason that this has a better user interface other than artificial segmentation. Now you can look at the comparison with all the other stuff on the market. Obviously, being Godox, this is a great value with regards to the entire market. Costs way less than the Profoto A series, but within its own lineup, compared to the TT685 at 110 bucks, V860 Mark II at 180, this isn't a great value. It's giving you a lot of features, but it's not giving you a tremendous value like those other flashes are. So for me, I can't give this any higher than a 6 out of 10 for value. That's not to say it's not worth the amount of money that it is, but it doesn't knock it out of the park like some of Godox's other products do. So what does that give us? That gives us a 41 out of 50. Still a solid score. We had a little bit up, a little bit of down, but this thing is still banging, it's still kicking. The battery, you recharge it so rarely that, I mean, what's gonna go on with the battery? I lost the charger for this a little while back, and I just didn't charge the battery. And I only found it a few days ago. It doesn't matter. I haven't charged this since September. No, maybe October. And I don't know, the battery meter is saying 2 out of 3 bars. I wouldn't stake my life on that battery meter, but it's ridiculous. Another time, I left this at a photo shoot. I was doing some real estate photos at a hotel. I did a lot of photo shoots that week. I could not remember where I left it. 1 month later, the customer contacted me and said, "Hey, I think I have something that belongs to you." Like, thank goodness. I go to pick it up. I had left this on when I left, a month before. It was still in standby. I pressed one button, it woke up. It was down to 1/3 power in the battery meter, but I took it home, fired off a whole bunch of 1/1 shots. It was still kicking. There are a lot of flashes that you can't keep in standby for a day, for a few hours. Looking at you, Profoto. This one, it'll stay in standby for a month and be ready to go. That is crazy. So, longevity, this turned out to be a little bit more solid than I expected. I did a poll on Facebook to try to see if anyone's been having the hot shoe problems with this as they had with the V860 Mark II, and it doesn't seem to be as common. It looks like they really did stiffen this up and make this stronger, which is good because it's a little bit more top heavy than the old one. Anyway, I'm just rambling now. There you have it, Godox V1. It's not the best value in their lineup, but it is a solid flash, and if it has the features that you're looking for, I totally recommend it. But if it's not in your budget, don't feel bad. You can get a lot of the same features and power from a cheaper strobe from Godox, and you don't have to feel bad for it. These bells and whistles just cost a little bit more than they really should. So anyway, until next time, keep on flashing, wash your hands, and go take some photos.